Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to AussieVerse. I am OmniBeau, joined by a Big Mac, and you may remember Alistair from such films as Deep Dive of Gods Among Men.
Great film.
Mum, we've gone out. It's party time. Thank you very much, Alistair, for coming back on the show. It has been a long time that we've been trying to work it out, but we finally got there. How are you feeling today, brother?
Rock on, dudes. Thanks for having me on, and great to speak with you and your viewers today. It'd be great. Yeah.
Absolutely. We got some great feedback from the last time you were on, so let's get some more. If you want to check out Alistair and his work, go to the YouTube channel right there at Manifesto TV Studio. That link will be in the description, and we will be checking that out just a little later. And if you want to come on the show as well, if you want to be cool like Alistair, then please go check out the link tree that has all of our socials and all of our merch and all of that really cool stuff. You can also go to Instagram, where you can check out our graphic designer, A51_designs. And as normal, go pick up something really cool at senationcomics.square.site for their awesome comics. We are humbly sponsored by Comic Bookaroo. Who are they? Word from them just a little bit later. But that's enough of the plug-in. Let's get down to some love then. Alistair, sir, we didn't really talk about you last time you were here, maybe a little bit, but today it's all about you. So please tell the audience who, what, why, how you are.
Wow, that's a big introduction there. Large on life. Hopefully I can live up to the hype. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, my background is for some years I've been in the underground metal scene, and in high school, I was in a band called the Chaos Engine with a couple of lads from there. And the guitarist Jared at the time, he got the name from an old Nintendo game, the Chaos Engine. And I think it was like one of those 2D games where we're playing like a guy who looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger shooting aliens or something like that. So that was the idea behind the name. And but before we actually started that, I started dabbling with drums when I was like mid-teens or whatever, and jamming with the guys. And then later on, I was okay as a drummer. I wasn't amazing. But then my friends were in another band. I used to go and see them a few times. It's been so long, I can't remember the name of the band. But I remember talking to the guitarist, like, yeah, we should start a band, blah, blah, blah. And none of them could sing, and I said, well, I can kind of sing, so I'll give it a go. Because no one else can sing. So that's how we sort of started. So I've got like in my archive an old demo of the Chaos Engine. I might show you guys one day. But anyway, so that happened to like early 20s. And then that didn't work out. As the old saying, a lot of bands you're in, it's hard to get bands motivated, especially when the guys are on the couch smoking the marijuana. Nothing happens after that. It's all over. So I took a break from music. From that because like I've always been highly driven, and I always had a really strong work ethic, and most people don't have that, which is really frustrating. It's like, you want to pull your hair out type stuff. So, but when I was like 26, I just got a desire to pick up a guitar. And so I just literally was a singer who picked up a guitar so I could write songs. And what you can see on those clips I've got on my channel of Manifesto, my band playing, it was pretty much me just writing all the riffs and then then structuring it and composing, and then getting musicians that are more talented than me and getting to add more flavor to it, and we'd bounce ideas of each other and blah blah blah, and help make the songs a lot better. And I love that. I mean, I miss that whole camaraderie and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've actually done that. But so about what was it, 2008, I started getting back to it. Started jamming with a guy called Steve Edwards, and then he went to Melbourne before me. And then as you can see on the videos, we've got a drummer called Alex Quinlan, Andrew Cutting on lead guitar, and my good friend Mino Kaliga, who was the bass player in Chaos Engine. and he was playing on that concert, and it was amazing. We got our good friend Larry to do the recording, and he recorded it through the desk and everything, and made us sound amazing. So, but yeah, I have fond memories of hanging out with Menno since we were teenagers. You know, he got me into a lot of interesting bands. You know, before that, I was you know, when I was like 15, I got into Guns N' Roses and Metallica when I was, you know, 15. Before that, I used to like somebody gave me a pirated tape of Cannibal Corpse when I was 13, and I remember playing that in my room, and I'd just crank it up. And I grew up in a religious family, so it just freaked everyone out, especially my mum and my sisters, because yeah, my mum was a control freak, and my sister's like, "Why are you listening to that music? Oh, it's horrible." You know, anything hard rock or metal, they just hated. Same with action movies, anything like that. So you know, I was just like, yes, I'm just going to rebel even more. The more they complain, the more they whinge about it, the more I'm going to turn it up louder. You know, one loud, as they say, with Spinal Tap. You know, so yeah, so when I came across Menno, he was a couple of years younger than me, but he got me into a lot of interesting music. Me and the boys used to jam in the garage or play some, you know, Megadeth. He got me into Megadeth and Alice in Chains, and then like you know, his creation father used to say to us, you know, "Why you were listening to that horrible music? You need to listen to Gypsy Kings." You know, like this. I got Gypsy Kings after that, you know. So I got a bit of a, you know, Gypsy Kings education from his dad, and Minnow loved it as well. So we were all like loving it, and so yeah, I have some good time memories from then. And then like nearly a decade later, me and Minnow crossed paths, and I recruited him into the band, to Manifesto, and yeah, he helped the songwriting a lot. He, you know, he's been a huge influence on me as a fellow, you know, songwriter and musician. So yeah, and you know, and then he had a terrible accident at the Woodmill, which was unfortunate. So he couldn't play bass anymore. So we went through a period where I got him to do some lead vocals. You'll see in some of the photos of him doing lead vocals. And yeah, we just we toured a new one in Adelaide. We had a good time there. So we turned it from a 4-piece to a 5-piece, and then couple of shows with that lineup, and then I then, you know, things happen. People have other commitments in life, as you know. Sometimes to keep the same lineup, it's really, really hard. You know, you just have to look at a documentary of Iron Maiden. They went through so many people before they got to a steady lineup, you know. So yeah, that I went through that, and yeah, so then I started jamming. We got reunited with Steve Edwards in Melbourne, and then we got this guy called Jeremy to play bass, and we did a couple of shows with Kieran Larkey from Xiphoid, and that was pretty cool. So we did a couple of shows in Adelaide. So I don't know if you know Kieran Larkey. He's probably one of the best guitarists I've seen out there. So with his friend.
Oh, you just muted yourself.
Hold on, Alistair, you've just muted yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. Nope, now you're muted again.
Loose wire. So anyway, you can edit that out probably. So where was I? So I was talking about Kieran Lucky and Glenn Sambrook. They're another band from Xiphoid. I highly recommend check them out. So yeah, I know last time I heard Kieran's up in New South Wales. Glenn's still in Melbourne. So Glenn is helping us doing the sound engineering for our studio album, which will hopefully get done soon. Everything got postponed because of the pandemic, unfortunately, and everyone's just trying to keep their head above water financially, really, including myself. And I was working in construction not long ago, about 6+ months ago, and I decided I needed to find new opportunities that would align with the direction I want to go with creatively. And then the opportunity came up with Planet Muse and with Salvation Army. So what originally was Planet Muse was originally a program that was started by Mark Keogh and Dean Eaton in Adelaide. and they asked me to come in board as a guitar tutor for it in 2009, and they actually ran it through Mark's Hope Institute called Archer College. So from there, it went for a couple of years, and then Archer College folded. I don't know the story behind that, but anyway, Mark's came up with the idea because someone we knew son passed away, unfortunately, and that young man was he was a huge fan of Nine Inch Nails. And Mark said to my dad, it'd be really great to have some sort of music therapy program that can help teenagers through their anxiety and through their depression, help them re-socialize and make new friends. So they feel like they're a part of society and they have a reason to wake up in the morning, as opposed to just being down the dumps. And now the pandemic has been and gone. It's like, according to statistics, that there's a huge percentage of students dropping out of high school or TAFE or whatever because of depression, So, yeah, a lot of people have just become like a hermit society, isolated on their own and not actually engaging with the world. And so that's what the program is. And so when the opportunity to come to revive the program, and we went through the process of applying it with Salvation Army to get it approved as an official program with the Salvation Army. So we started the program at Camberwell Core at the Salvation Army Church there. And, it's not like, it's mainly a charity-based organization. So it's not about like preaching to people or anything like that. So it's mainly to get people in a good headspace, explore their creativity, have a bit of a creative sandpit, make new friends. And then later on, there'll be the opportunity next year to do Certificate 3. We've actually got a registered tertiary organisation with Eva Burrows College, which is a college owned by the Salvation Army. And so my role is as the general manager for that. So I'm a facilitator and I wear a lot of hats. And we will be also looking at starting a YouTube channel soon to get the word out there, because when I mentioned it before to you, Bo, when I mentioned again Planet Muse, you completely, like, you probably just jogged your memory and you're like, oh, what's that, man? It's like, I need to get the name out there. I need to get some printed T-shirts. I need to wear it around.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, what's that? Is that a band? That, funny enough, when I did a reel, someone actually put that as a comment. So I just politely put the link to the website. I know it could be a bit like, what's that, man? That's interesting. But it takes time to build brand, and get the name out there. But it's really to help the community, so people can do the free version, and then later on with the Certificate 3 version, to get credit and all that, we may look at this. It's not, don't quote me on this, but we may look at seeing if there could be some sort of scholarship program for young people that don't have the money, or the parents don't have the money to do the actual qualification. So yeah, we're going to explore that down the track, but it's going quite well. We've got a good team of people, and we've got someone on board who has a degree in music who's helping us to do the curriculum as well. And also we have an advisor that advised when the program was in Adelaide. Can't remember the guy's name, but he's actually a qualified music therapist who goes into hospitals and does music therapy for there, and he's an advisor to the program. And also Mark is a bit of a business entrepreneur. He has this new artificial intelligence plugin that can plug into any kind of online sort of setup, where it analyzes audio recordings and video footage for recognition of prior learning. So you don't have to fill out a 25-page document and then have to get testimonies from this person and that person in the industry that can testify that you've done this and that to prove that you have the recognition of prior learning to get the credit at TAFE or whatever. So there's a unique opportunity there that Mark's actually giving it to the program for free as a part of charity thing. And yeah, I think that's revolutionary. I think that's amazing. And it's one of the first in the world. He's getting a lot of clients overseas in America, the colleges over there. And so it's in high demand. And yeah, we're piling in it through the program. So that's really cool.
That sounds amazing, man. Yeah.
Bo, you asked such a loaded question that Alistair had to go balls to the wall with the most loaded answer in the history. I was just like, whoa,
so
brain. Who, what, when, why, how? I was like, okay, boom, back it all in.
Info dump.
It's like question. Bo,
it's like the Matrix, you know, they plug you in. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
Well, then, speaking of the Manifesto TV, because there's a couple of different areas in it, let's go take a look at the music side of things. So here we go. This is Manifesto TV. And as you can see in the banner there, sword and sorcery, heavy metal, comics, pulp fiction, Conan, action comics, philosophy, horror, games, mythology, fantasy, sci-fi, esoteric, history. Now, we'll go into what all of this is in just a moment. But for now, let's go to the playlist. We'll go to Manifesto. There is. And I know you've got a couple of questions to do with that, Aaron. But before we get into that, let's go to the Manifesto, the early days.
Go one more, please.
And let's check this out.
Too loud. This game of Trinity, what do we have from? Not enough. Riding down the wall, up to see. We can see my hand. Down in this school, riding down the wall. Up to see. We can see my hand. Down in the store. Shooting out with it. We drink pleasure in this boxing. Riding down the wall, up to see. When you see my hair, down at the stone. Riding down the wall, up to see. When you see my hair, down at the stone. see ya. It's to my hand. Down at the school, right down the wall. Up to see ya. It's to my hand. Down at the school.
It makes me think of like extra
Thank you,
thrash
Taylor. We are Manifesto.
misfits.
Got one more for you tonight. It's good.
All right. Whoa.
Yeah.
And that was like what, 10 years ago?
Yeah, at the Squatters Arms Hotel.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's remove that for a moment. We'll go back to that in a moment. Aaron, sir.
Yo, so okay, here I don't know. I had some questions prepared, and I don't know. I'm just gonna try and go with the flow here. But what I'm really curious about, because I wanna pick your brain, Alistair, on this, is that you are a case study of many that I've seen. Like obviously, AussieVerse primarily talks comics, but we talk about other stuff, and you're a fan of both metal and comics. And I've noticed that this crossover is actually really common. I mean, this guy. So I'm curious, Alistair, why do you think, what's your take? Why do you think that is?
Well, maybe it goes back to, Dave Mustaine was a huge Punisher fan. No, no, but I
Was
think,
he?
it's like, was it Rust and was it, Rust in Peace album? He was reading a lot of Punisher comics back then. It was like that's early '90s from memory, and
Very anti-established.
like Holy Wars. I think Holy Wars and a few of those songs. Yeah, it's sort of like you can hear. I was listening to the interviews about that, and you can see that when you read the lyrics, that can kind of relate to the Punisher, the character of the Punisher, and then of course they were influenced by Area 51. So I think it's like anything like action orientated, science fiction, fantasy orientated tends to appeal to people who listen to heavy metal as well. I mean, you've got like Call of Cthulhu, the instrumental that Metallica did on Ride the Lightning album.
Love that.
And Kirk Hammett's a huge horror fan. He loves anything Edgar Allan Poe to H.P. Lovecraft, and he had that in common with Cliff Burton. Cliff Burton was all into that stuff. Even though he died about 23, he was really well read, more well read than anyone else in the band, and was classically trained. So he's kind of like one of those underrated musicians that if you don't know that, you wouldn't know, sort of thing. And
I like
and
you
he.
said, I like that you said well read. So I'm just like, also comics is like, it's like literature. It's on par with literature, It's fine art.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. If you're cultured in comics, that's why heavy metal's cultured and comics is cultured.
Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
It's the artistry, the artistry of Pride and Prejudice. Oh, Mr. Darcy. No. So, I mean, Mr. Darcy is probably the probably closest thing to a metalhead or an emo because he's so dark and mysterious, which is kind of gothic as well. But he's aloof. But anyway, as I was saying, I think it's part of that. Part of that thing. It's like I've been discovering it's related to the pulp fictions of the 20s and 30s as well, which preceded comics, which drew upon a lot of alternative history, esoteric stuff, mythologies, which a lot of heavy metal guys draw upon, and also historical influences. It's weird. It's weird how that comes together. I think it's also curiosity and inquisitive minds. You love stories, and there's so much range to it. There's so many different genres of heavy metal as well as there's so many genres of science fiction and fantasy. So I think that partly plays into it.
I like that. It's the fascination with stories.
Yeah. I mean, all the good heavy metal bands. Like one of my favorite heavy metal bands is Symphony X. They're like Dream Theater, but better storytellers.
Power metal.
Yeah, Pat.
Better storytellers than Dream Theater. Oof.
Well, in the sense that I've seen Dream Theater live, like I think you can appreciate Dream Theater more on a cerebral level, while I think Symphony X sort of have that perfect balance between emotion and intellect a bit more. And I think Russell Allen, I think, is the singer from memory. Yeah, I think he's just amazing voice, and the music just pulls you in. You know, I think it just pulls me in, hits me in the gut, so to speak. You know, a bit more than Dream Theater, because I remember seeing Dream Theater for over, I think it went for nearly 2 hours, and it just felt like,
must have been the short
if you're a
version.
complete math nerd and you were like, that's signature and blah blah blah, and oh my gosh, you know, because you're thinking on the cerebral only about the music theory, that's when you totally get into it. But if you want a bit of like soul in there, you know, I think go Symphony X, yeah, a bit more soul. But I was born in Mount Gambier, and I did not know this. I met someone who was born in the same hospital in Mount Gambier. There's only one hospital there, a small country town. And they were telling me there's something in the water in Mount Gambier because it's a heavy metal town. A lot of heavy metal bands play there. And I was like, so that's why I'm the only one in the family that likes heavy metal.
You were drinking from the river.
Yeah, the volcanic rich waters, you know. and it's kind of funny because that plays into horror too, because like when I was researching Bram Stoker's Dracula, like the story of Dracula's castle is on a volcano. So does that make me the Antichrist? No, I'm not joking. Or like the next Dracula? No, only joking. But
dress darker.
Yeah, I gotta get ready for Halloween, man. But yeah, that's pretty funny. Like, you know, that's pretty funny. But it's, you know, we make up, you know, me and my dad make up funny stories, you know, because when we went and visited, like probably 10 years ago, I went there with my parents, and it was just, the hospital was completely derelict. It was completely abandoned. There was graffiti everywhere, and you know, my mum was jokingly saying, "Oh, that's why your life's such a mess." I'm like, "Oh, come on, mum," you know. And then, because it's like, you know, it's just a rule. It's like, you know, when born, there was like, you know, a volcanic eruption. There was lightning striking, you know, the glass shattered. Like, you know, there only can be one, Highlander style. No, you know, the legend keeps, you know, growing legs. You know, yeah, we just like to have a bit of a laugh, you know. So yeah, no, it's good fun. But yeah, I've been busy with the YouTube stuff. Just learning how to use the software has been a huge learning curve, and I've been listening to like other people talk about it on YouTube, where they were musicians that didn't, you know, were playing in pubs or whatever and busking, and they weren't getting anywhere with it, so they decided to do content creation as well. So content creation is a good platform to show off yourself as a musician as well. And and I've been following guys on Twitch. There's a lot of musicians on there busking, and I just thought, wow, this is so much better than having to drive somewhere, you know, to busk. You know, you can just busk in the comfort of your own home. And I think a lot of musicians should embrace that. I think if done correctly, and you could actually build a really good following, and it's probably more. You could probably turn it into a business, which is really good. So that's just my recommendation out in the stratosphere of the internet, you know, for those musicians who are thinking about other ways to earn a living out of music, I suppose. So what else questions do you have?
All right. Well, seeing as we're at the halfway point, I do just want to shout out to our sponsor, Comic Bookaroo, Australia's #1 online comic book store.
Comic Bookaroo, proud sponsors of AussieVerse for all your comic book needs. Graphic novels, hardcovers, omnibuses, single issues. Don't forget to pre-order every Sunday at Comic Bookaroo.
Woo! That's on. Bo, you had a question.
Oh, I did. Okay. I thought you were going to ask the Conan
No, I
questions.
asked one. No, you asked
Oh,
one.
is that how YouTube works?
I think so. It's a
Oh,
fair
okay. Sorry.
society.
Right. Okay. Sorry, mate. So,
Democracy.
let's go into back to the YouTube channel, because apart from the music, there's a whole other side to this, right? So here we go. We have Conan videos, right? Conan Angelo, the best and wildest fantasy adventurer, inside Arnold Schwarzenegger's Temple of Iron, uncovering the ancient secrets of Conan the Barbarian, unveiling the Conan comics' first impressions. Conan, and more Conan. Dude, what's with Conan?
Oh, come on, guys. I have to confess, I have a fish. No, I'm only joking. But anyway, well, I felt like he's underrepresented in the pop culture sphere at the moment. I think there's so much potential with that IP. It could go further. And years and years ago, when I was reading the original Conan stories, and I was reading about Robert E. Howard, and interesting enough, Conan, Robert E. Howard was known amongst his peers, his fellow writers, as being completely obsessed with Celtic history and mythology, self-professed Celtophile, as they say. And I was reading this and I was thinking, wow, when I was 16, I didn't know a lot about my Irish, Scottish, Welsh roots. And so I started reading it, and then did ask my parents a bit more questions and stuff to learn more about it, because I found out that around the Industrial Revolution period, a lot of people of those types of ethnicities and that were pretty much told, no, don't tell your kids you're Irish or Scottish or whatever. We're going to speak English instead, and we're going to tell everyone we're English. And it's sort of like it was swept under the rug. But yeah, I immediately identified with Robert E. Howard in that sense, because when I was 16, I got so enthusiastic and passionate about anything to do with Celtic history and mythology that my mum actually got me a Celt jar, not a swear jar. So every time I'd start having a monologue about the Celts, it'd be like, okay, another $1 in that jar. But I was such an enthusiastic, and I was like, why isn't this taught in the schools? This should be mandatory. I was like, because, I wanted to feel proud about, where I came from, the ancestry and all that sort of stuff. So Conan is actually the pop culture representation of that. Conan in Irish language means little hound or little wolf. And Robert E. Howard was inspired by characters like Cuchulainn, the Hound of Ulster, which inspired Conan. So I can see all the inspirations there, but it's set in 10,000 BC. So it's kind of like going back into a fictional past, a make-believe past, but it's like, what if the Sumerians were the proto-Celts, sort of thing, even though the Sumerians were a different Indo-European group that we've discovered now. But back then, in his day, there was a lot of things a lot of missing information that Robert E. didn't have, but there were similarities between the different groups. But so I've and of course there's the Arnold Schwarzenegger film as well. I remember seeing that when I was late teens, 18 or something like that. It's a little bit different from Robert E. Howard's vision, but it still had some good stuff in there, and also some mythological allusions and allegorical symbols in there.
It had his muscles. Come on,
what's that,
those
sorry?
muscles. It had his muscles.
Oh yeah, Miller said if we didn't have Arnold, we have to build him. Because they'd have to actually physically build the body. But Arnold was fantastic in that.
See, because full disclaimer, I had no clue that. And Bo, did you know this, that Conan's background was Celtic?
I'm going to sound smart, so yes.
Screw you. Well, the thing is, okay. See, I want to present a perspective here, right? Because I'm somebody I've never read a Conan book. I know I only just now learned through you, Alistair, that Conan actually has a Celtic background. So I'm gonna put you in the hot seat, right? And I'm gonna in like a few sentences, what makes Conan different from other medieval and fantasy genre like comics?
He's essentially like the boogeyman. As soon as he enters the room or the environment that other characters are in, he's kind of like the urban myth or legend that everyone's afraid of, because they know that when Conan enters a scene, anything can happen, good or bad. And
so is he kind of anti-hero-esque? And I know there's Conan fans out there who are like, what dumb questions, but I don't know. Educate. I don't know, man.
He's morally ambiguous, but he has a moral code in the sense that he has his wolf pack. So if you're part of the wolf pack, he'll look after you. But anyone outside of that is fair game.
Right.
So, and it's sort of like you can see how George Martin is influenced by Robert E. Howard. In that sense, it's more adult fiction. In the 1930s, Pulp Fiction was tailored to more adult audience. Hence why there's lots of scantily clad women, which is completely politically incorrect, but who cares? It's great storytelling. It's a bit of fun. It's like he's like a little bit like James Bond, but with massive muscles. But he's descended from thousands of generations of barbarians, where he's almost like he's like Charles Darwin's, poster child of natural selection, where he's just physically and intellectually superior, not necessarily academic because he didn't come from that, but when he becomes king, he actually learns all that sort of academic stuff. But he's more of the wild barbarian, which is based on the ancient Indo-Europeans. So the ancient Indo-Europeans of the ancient world were actually the archetype for the barbarian you see in D&D, and which Robert E. Howard started with Conan. So if you really want to understand who Conan is, you need to look at the histories and the mythologies of the Indo-Europeans. And also in the last 10 years, we've actually had massive breakthroughs in genetics, in mapping the genome, looking at the genotypes and then the phenotypes where certain things are expressed. Like the blue eyes he has is like the Western hunter-gatherers, and he tans in the sun, which the Western hunter-gatherers have. But yeah, he has that, that sort of, on the border of the Aesir, which are like the proto-Nordics and proto-Scandinavians, and the Sumerians have a bit of intermarriage there. So they're in the far north of the Hyborian Age. They're like the far northwestern Europe, where you've got the giants of Iceland and, people like that, 7 feet tall, really big people up there. Conan's about between 6'5" and 7, I think, around there. And but he also is another side to him. He's almost a bit like Miyamoto Musashi in the sense that he's just a master swordsman. He's not just a dumb barbarian. He's somebody who lives in his instincts, and it's through those instincts that gives him the creative and intellectual edge over the people in the cities, because the cities, they're all trapped in their the frontal lobe cortex, the chatterbox brain, the Woody Allen syndrome, the neurotic New Yorker, that is kind of like the city dweller or the city, academic who's, it's a stereotype. You get these guys who are doing PhD in science and maths. They're good. They could get the PhD, but when it comes to using a toaster, they'll set the building on fire.
The IQ, EQ thing.
Yeah, IQ, EQ thing, yeah. And it's being more in tune with that subconscious. Like you learn that through martial arts, where the subconscious controls, multiple limbs at once. Well, the conscious mind only can focus on one thing at a time because it's an idiot, even though it can perform better in academic context. Can
I just say, I don't. The thing is, I don't have any assessment of like each comic audience, but I know, like, for myself, sometimes when I read a comic, I enjoy the moment. I think it's rare to have someone like you who goes, like, you reach so deep into the source material and beyond, and because you're talking about regional histories of, and I think that's why people will come to your channel if they're like, I want to know. You're like the guy who does those explain videos, and you've done so much research that the average person's like, I cannot be asked doing that research, but you've gone so like in depth and so much like you've done all the hard yards to get all this real deep information.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So kudos to that, because I know myself. I love watching the videos. I can't be stuffed doing a lot of the work sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of YouTube channels I follow that help me as well, that fill in the gaps, you know. So because I usually watch YouTube videos, so I don't have time to sit down and read like 100 academic papers in a week or whatever. You know? So that's my life hack, you know. But I go to guys who've done work in different areas, and then I go, oh, okay, cool, that's really interesting. I never thought of that, because I like to explore things from different divergent points of view as well. So and that.
Bo, do you mind? I've got one question, which it's a pretty straightforward one, and actually, Bo, you can answer this too, because I know Bo's read a Conan book. But to each of you, if you were to introduce to somebody who's never read Conan, what is the first story arc or book you'd tell them to go read?
Oh no, I can't answer that. I haven't read enough Conan.
Well, based off what you've read, but Alistair.
I would say I would start off. I prefer to read off in chronology. Like, I've actually got the book on the shelf, and the first story that was published was called Phoenix on the Sword. So I think that's a great introduction to him. Conan's already king, but the first introduction of Conan,
Savage Avengers.
He's got the Avengers. I haven't read the Avengers comics yet, but that looks wild.
It's not Conan.
Dude, Alistair's talking about the original pre-Disney, the purists, and you're here with Savage Avengers.
You asked me a question. I'm answering it.
Well, there's Conan for everyone, you know. So, but Phoenix on the Sword, because like the first scene you see of Conan is actually doing a bit of cartography. He's actually drawing the northern lands of Hyboria with a feather and quill, you know. And it's sort of ironic because it's like, you know, is Robert E. Howard making an allusion to, the pen is mightier than the sword, you know? I don't know, maybe, who knows? But
think about Arnold, just this big guy, like, you got to do the map.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing is, like, because, Conan is of like proto-Irish origin, I was thinking about it. When Robert E. Howard was writing the stories, did he imagine in his mind that Conan had an Irish accent? That's a question I want to know.
Well, like Conan O'Brien, right?
Well, hasn't got the physique, and he's a very American accent, I think.
Yeah,
but it's a very Irish name, yeah.
Conan, yeah.
Yeah, be interesting, to do that. I actually want to do you hear a lot of YouTubers doing like readings of the stories and things like that. I want to actually go through original stories and do like a radio version. So I'll probably do the narration in sort of like an Irish sort of accent. I was talking to Angelo about it because I was trying to get him involved with it, and he said, "Man, it sounds like the narration from Lord of the Rings." You know, I was like, "Oh, thanks, man." So
keep it going.
And then also I'm doing some courses in VFX for Unreal Engine where I actually got a guy who has done a 3D model of Conan for Unreal Engine 5. So that's going to take a while to do. Going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I know the fans are hanging out for it. I've been reading the comments saying, it's probably going to take a 3D animation Unreal Engine project to do it. And I've just recently played Space Marine 2. I don't know if you played Space Marine 2.
I have not.
It kind of reminds me of like that feeling I had when I first played Duke Nukem 3D, where everyone's saying it's like you're on a movie set of Arnold Schwarzenegger movie set where you feel like you're the action guy. That's what
like Last Action Hero.
Yeah. Or like Terminator or whatever, or like True Lies or whatever. But I was just saying, Bo, about the Space Marine 2. It reminded me of Duke Nukem 3D. That it just has that testosterone, gun blazing action, all that sort of stuff. And when he does the takedowns, it's like Mortal Kombat style. He's just ripping those Tyranids to shreds, Captain Titus. And so like I've always, like since a teenager, I've always been a 40K fan as well. So that's something I'd like to explore down the track after I've done established myself with the Conan niche and then sort of branch out to 40K later on. So I was saying to Aaron, I'm going to try and do a 3D animated trailer. So like the comic book strip I've done so far, I'm going to recreate that in 3D and then I use that as a little pitch to get everyone excited and then try and get a team together to actually do like Robert E. Howard's original stories in 3D, which would be pretty wild, like a little series, like, be pretty cool. Because it's like he's not getting enough representation and studios don't seem to know what they're doing these days. They're so out of touch with the target audience. And I think that the tide is turning, especially with games like Space Marine 2 and all that. That in less than 7 days, it made $45 million. So it made, and it's gone up since then. So it's made so much money. They're talking about Space Marine 3 and expansions and stuff on it. So I'm really happy about that because it reminds me of what I was like when I was 15 playing those sort of games. And it was like you didn't have to feel like you didn't have to look around and is there a feminist with a rolling pin about to smack me right now? No. Yeah. You don't have to feel like you're gonna get browbeaten, for playing a testosterone gun blazing game.
I had to step out for a moment because I had to grab these and say, how many of these do you have?
I've got a couple. But
there's a lot of them.
Here comes the flex.
The flex.
Show us your books. Get your books out for the boys.
How old they are?
Wow. Vintage relic.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
So this is Blood and Thunder, the biography of Robert E. Howard, written by Mark Finn. And eventually I'll get him on. He's good friends with Jeffrey Shanks, which I previously interviewed. So I highly recommend that.
That's the manliest photo. Look at that guy's got a gun and a look at
that.
Wow.
That's actually Robert E. Howard himself.
Good man.
And I love this photo here. It's like so boss.
What is that? What is he? Is he drinking a massive
big
wine
glass of beer or ale or wine or something? Wow. I don't know.
Champion.
It's like a barbarian drink.
Yeah, it's the spirit of Conan.
And this was another one I read. Sorry, it's reversed. Weird Tailors. So that talks about Robert E. Howard and now the pulp fiction writers like Lovecraft and all that, like Clark Ashton Smith. And I've got this one, Cull of Atlantis.
Cull.
Yeah. So he created Cull before Conan. So, and he actually makes a cameo in some of the comics as well. I won't say too much, but definitely check out the new Titan comic book series. So yeah, I wanted to get into that. And I was actually surprised how much this actually influenced John Millis's Conan as well. So yeah, because a lot of people, purists, complained about what Millis did wasn't true to what Howard wrote about Conan specifically, but he blended certain elements and things like that, and some of the poetry and the dialogue, with King Osric, Max von Sydow, some of his dialogue is I found a similar kind of poem in the book as well to that, and I was thinking, wow, he at least read that, because I know Ron Cobb was a lifelong fan of Conan, and that's why he's always well respected, and he actually got Millis, tried to get him up to speed with it all, but then Millis did his own thing as well. And of course I've got the Bible. It has all the stories in it.
Nice.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, so what you find with some of the old paperbacks, where if it says what's his L. Sprague de Camp and the other author, I'm trying to remember, but L. Sprague de Camp did it like his own version. Yeah, and that really upset the hardcore Conan fans, and it took years and years and years and years for them to actually finally get the original manuscripts and print them as they were. And though this edition has like no Sprague to LD Camp contamination in it. It's pure Howard. And then like this Carl book, I have to get the other ones in this series. It's called, what's the series? It's the Ballantine books. Del Rey books. Sorry, Del Rey books. They actually have 3 books that make up that big volume there.
Man, this one.
That's a comic book. I'm talking about the. I see what you're doing there.
That's the original one, right? The original Carl. Because see, I only know about Carl and Conan through the comics. So the fact that you're pulling out these books with words, and I'm like, where are the pictures at? I'm just, I forget sometimes when property gets acquired, and that to me is like, that's what, like, you know, I'm like, oh, Conan, that's Marvel.
Yep.
He runs around with Kazar. The same.
Kazar.
You know? It's not Kazar.
It's Kazar. It's not Kazar.
She's going to say, you just say it's the nappy.
Yeah. You probably think it's pronounced Conan the Barbarian.
I've said it 100 times. If it was Kazar, it would be K-A-Y.
No. That's irrelevant. We're talking about Conan here, all right? Conan the Barbarian.
Conan the Barbarian.
Conan.
Yes. Conan. It's Japanese. He's a Japanese guy. It's actually feudal Japan.
I think that's how the Irish would say it. Conan. Yeah.
Very
But because Americans like Conan, you know. Oh, it's Conan the Barbarian, you know. It's like
Conan O'Brien.
So yeah, it's I'm slowly expanding my collection. I've got way too many books to read. That's the only problem, and not enough time to read them.
I have no idea what you mean.
At Bo's. Yeah, look at Bo's room. He hasn't read.
Yeah, I mean, you've got more comics than me. That's for sure.
I've read everything up on these walls and in all my boxes. You know why? Because they're single issues. They have pictures and they have less pages.
And as soon as he reads them, he frames them.
Was it like was that cartoon? Was it not Ren and Stimpy? Where it was that cartoon character that goes, "Turn the page, wash your hands. Turn the page, wash your hands." It's like, and he had everything in mint condition and sleeves, and he would always put like gloves on.
I'm not that extreme, you know.
No,
I still think books should be read. You know, people are like, "Oh, do you wear gloves when you read them?" And I don't wear gloves when I handle chili. Like, you know,
but they should be read when you start them in a certain time frame, and not like 6 months for one book, Aaron.
It's funny you mentioned that because recently I got issues 1, 5, and 6 of a mini series, and that's how I read them. And eventually, I will get issues 2, 3, and 4, and then the story will be complete.
You are a fool. You are a fool, Mac. Jesus.
See,
all right.
You've got book reader, and then you've got omnibus reader, and then you've got crazy single issue reader.
And before we get into our last segment of the show, we also do want to give out a massive thanks to our 4 lifers. These are our paid members to the AussieVerse YouTube channel. That is Azrael85, the Fourth Monkey, Ali, Ben Sullivan, and Simple Simon. We really appreciate you guys. But remember that being a paid member is not required. The best thing you can do to support the channel is liking the videos and subscribing to the channel as we're on our road to 1,000 subs.
Oh, yeah.
Now
it's game time.
The last thing we want to show now is we're going to take it back to what you were saying earlier about that initiative with the oh God, I've gone blank with the oh my God, I wrote it down here. I wrote it down here. You think we can pause and edit stuff. We just don't. Salvation Army. I went blank with Salvation Army. Oh, okay. Sorry, Salvation Army. But let's go take a look now at Planet Muse. So guide us through this, man.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, it's a program has been officially improved by the Salvation Army. So they have different other programs like Just Guitars and Just Brass and all that. But yeah, so with main target audience 16 to 25. So yeah, it's for people who have an interest in music or want to try something different. And like I said, next year we'll probably do certificate 3 through Eva Burris College. And it'll be like a year 12 subject equivalent. And so at the moment I'm doing my certificate 4 in training assessment at TAFE, so I can become officially a TAFE teacher. And after that, I'll be doing a diploma of music as well. So, but we do have someone on board who is coming in to do some training as well. Her name's Felicity Adams. She's done a degree in music performance, and she does like musical theatre as well. So yeah, it's coming together quite well. And we're going to have, like, in the curriculum, I think it's like 12 subjects. So that's all going to be prepared and all ready for next year. And
it says here you've got 2 options. One is a part-time 18-week, 6-month course that commences July 16th. I'm guessing that's next year.
Yeah, so that'll be next year.
Okay, approximately 6 hours per week of online learning, supplemented by 3 hours per week of face-to-face workshops over 18 weeks. This intake will not be accredited. However, a Planet Muse certificate of completion will be awarded to those who complete the full 18 weeks. Cost is free. However, donations to this project are always welcome. Or you can go for a part-time 38-week accredited version of the Planet Muse course for people 16 or 17 years of age wishing to complete a certificate 3 in music. First intake is term 1, 2025. Approximately 6 hours per week of online learning, supplemented by 3 hours per week face-to-face workshops over 38 weeks. Again, cost is free. However, some schools offer funding for this qualification as part of a year 12 curriculum.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I think it's a really good opportunity. Yeah, that you guys are giving out there for people to take on. And yeah, like I think especially for that 16 to 25, like super developmental discovery age is a great time to try stuff and get that education up in you.
Get that education up in you.
Or just practical life experience as well. So it's a lot of practical, and it can be quite empowering, because I've gone through that myself, where you don't have the self-esteem as a young teenager or whatever, and all the encouragement and support. And it's like when I was reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's bodybuilding book a few years back, he said that your environment shapes how you develop over time. And if you're surrounded by positive people that are have a strong work ethic, have that entrepreneurial spirit, or they have a proven record of producing things and getting results, as opposed to being in an environment where everyone's negative Nelly, everyone's putting each other down, and everyone's a critic, like an armchair critic, and they don't actually achieve anything. They're just miserable and depressed because they just want to tear everyone else down. But we want to break the cycle out of that. We want to get people into a better headspace and get into a better way of thinking, so they can be the best version of themselves are. So you don't fall into that trap, of that negative spiral in society. And also having that community support especially through times of, tough times, especially, since we came out of the pandemic, it was really rough for everyone. And I think if you don't have that community support, it can make things a lot harder for you in life. Yeah.
I love this positivity.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else you want to discuss before we end the show?
If you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask if you have any.
I think 100% out of this whole thing, anyone, if you're interested in Conan, this man is the certified expert. If you have a question about history, about mythology, your banner says it all. Like, I think your channel is the way to go. People should definitely go check it out to get all this in-depth, very rich material in there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Manifesto TV studio, people, y'all want to go check it out because he's done the homework that you don't have to do.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's right. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been fantastic, man. This is it's actually been quite enjoyable. I said this last time you were on the show, but I feel like if we just went untethered and we didn't worry about time restraints, we could probably pull off a few hours on a show.
This shows can go.
Maybe one day we'll get up like on a Saturday morning or something, and we'll just go live and we'll just see how long we can go. I reckon that's a great idea.
It'd be good to do a panel of like different pop culture topics, and then we could discuss it. That'd be pretty wild.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's hook that one up sometime. Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, I believe Aaron has one last question for you before we go.
Hey, Alistair. What is AussieVerse?
Does he remember?
Do you remember?
It is everything.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's close. It's pretty
Pop
close.
culture, everything.
Oh boy. Okay. You know what? Because you said such a wonderful answer, but it was wrong. You now have to suffer. You now have to suffer this fate of being put on the spot and playing this game that we like to call.
And now it's time for the AussieVerse Thought of the Week.
If dog food isn't made with dog, why put the picture of the dog on it?
Is that a question?
It's a horrible thought.
Oh man, that's a thinker, that one. Okay, being born increases your chance of death by 100%.
Wow, you Googled that one.
I did not. I came up with that all by myself.
Oh, so am I meant to say something as well?
Oh, yeah.
That was the thought. He was all thinking.
Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of women.
Appropriate.
Well done. Okay. That was great for somebody that we have not warned about that at all. And if you were wondering, Alistair, because I'm pretty sure we said this last time, but don't worry, we'll forgive you because you're such a great guest and now part of the extended AussieVerse family. AussieVerse is and always will be, put it up out, for life. We'll catch you next time.
For life. Yeah, no worries, guys. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
It's on, brother.